Welcome to another live episode, Pound for Pound Box Report, episode 413. I'm your host, Michael. Joining me this week, usual cast of characters, Gail from nyfights.com, Daniel from 4 Boxing News and the Inscribe. What's going on, lady and gent?
Hey, it's hot edition, and it's not just because it's so damn hot outside.
Yeah. The weather has heated up just about everywhere. Or if you're on the East Coast or eastern side of the country, you're dealing with the effects of those Canadian fires. At least where I reside here in the Southeast, uh, air was not good because we're finally getting the effects of all that smoke from those fires. The air quality was rather poor today, but that's a secondary issue. Um, For those who are new to Pound for Pound Box Report, Pound for Pound Box Report, live YouTube show, podcast, blog, website, etc. Talking all things boxing. The motto is when boxing is good, we will talk about it. When it's bad, we will talk about it. Bottom line is, if it concerns the sweet science, it will get discussed. If you want to find out any and all information about Pound for Pound Box Report, besides the place to go to, p4pboxreport.com. If you wish to email us, you can do so with questions, thoughts, suggestions, etc. You can email us at p4pboxing at p4pboxreport.com. On the site, you'll find links to where to find us all over the socials, links to the YouTube channel, links to the Facebook, Twitter, Tumblr page, also links to where to find us in the podcast world, be it Anchor, be it Google Podcast, be it Spotify, wherever you listen to your favorite podcast, you should be able to find the Pound for Pound Box Report. Also, let donation be the best nation. Cash me, PayPal donation links if you would like to contribute. Wouldn't matter if it's $1, $2, $5. Whatever you're willing to offer, we will greatly appreciate it. And last but certainly not least, check out the link to Body BODI, formerly known as Beach Body on Demand. If you're looking to get your body right this summer, Body has programs for any and all suitable interest. If you're looking to lift weights, I suggest you check out programs like Lift 4, Lift More, Body Beast. If you're looking for real challenging functional workouts that really push you, I suggest you check out programs like 6 Weeks of the Work, Morning Meltdown. If you're looking for a yoga specific workout, you have something there. If you're looking out for a program called Pi, if you look out, I suggest the ladies, they like the program PIO, which is a combination of plyometrics and yoga. The P90X series 1, 2, 3, they're still on the site and they still work very, very well. If you're looking for a boxing specific program, please check out 10 Rounds, a 6-week program, 3 days a week of boxing based cardio, 2 days a week of weightlifting. At the very least, take advantage of the free 14-day trial that's continually running on Body, and that is for 14 days. You get free access to any and all programs on Body, including the sample workout from the latest workout program on Body, and that is Chop Wood, Carry Water. Let's get things going by recapping what went down this past weekend, and let's start in Detroit, Michigan, the kind of adopted hometown of Alycia Baumgardner, undisputed women's junior lightweight champion. Her last outing, she gained the status as undisputed champion at 130 pounds. Made the first defense of those belts in a rematch against Christina Linadartou. And I go to you, Gail. In their first fight, Linadartou beat the Bomb by a split decision. In the past, when talking about Baumgardner, Gail, one of my issues was issue of stamina, right? We know how impressive she is from a physical standpoint, in terms of her physique, in terms of her punching ability, and her obvious strength and power. But for me, it was an issue of, can she fight 3 minutes of a full round, right? In the past, she's tended to be a woman who fights in spurts, throws hard punches, and then she has to take time off to recover. In this fight, Gail, it was a little bit of the same. It was a little bit of that pattern from first to second round, in which Baumgardner started real strong, but then she kind of let off the gas a bit in the second. But as the rounds persisted, she did a better job of controlling pace. The body work was excellent. The jab was excellent. Now, Linadartou, she was in the fight all night long, but ultimately, Baumgardner got her sweet revenge, winning by unanimous decision. I felt the fight was a little bit closer than the scorecards indicated, but overall, a very good fight, right? Linadartou was right there with her. Uh, it wasn't. There was not a moment in which Baumgartner completely dominated, in my opinion. But in the end, she won, and she won fair and square.
Absolutely. Before I comment on Alycia, props to Christina Linadartou. She came back after a year off for maternity leave in phenomenal condition. She worked hard. She made it entertaining. She was in it to the very end. And that's what it takes for a great fight. I will look forward to seeing her again. She's got a lot of opportunities because of that performance. She looked good. And I'd be very excited to see her again against other opposition around this weight class. So, as to Alycia, I have heard the criticism about, oh, she gasses out. Oh, her conditioning isn't the greatest. Let's think about other fighters who conserve their energy to make sure they are winning a majority of the rounds and they pace themselves. Oh, like Canelo. Do we hear the exact same kind of criticism about Canelo? Some people do note that he takes rounds off, that he's very good about conserving his energy. But it works for him. It works for Alycia. The proof is in the results. And if that is the best way for her to perform, that's fine with me. I was most impressed by the body work. Really, really good body work. You don't see a lot of women employ it, and more of them should. If you've got the reach, if you're willing to take some incoming fire when you're coming in, and if you are nimble enough and your footwork and angles are good, gives you the possibility of landing and pivoting. And I saw a lot of that this fight with Alycia. She was very motivated. It was a great performance. She did have Linadartou hurt at times. This is the limitation of the 2-minute rounds. I do think given an extra minute in a couple of those rounds, she might have gotten a lot closer to stopping her or perhaps just dropping her. But Linadartou, she was tough, and credit to her. She's also skilled. She just wasn't quite up to Baumgardner. And I think being off for a year, you can't exactly, criticize her too hard. I dare say that a lot of the men would not look half as good coming off a year of maternity leave. And this being her first fight back, that's very impressive. So very entertaining fight. I dare say the best main event of the weekend.
Indeed, I go to you, Daniel. Baumgardner, after the fight, basically says she's open to fight any and everyone from 130 to 140 pounds, right? But there seems to be in the couple days after this fight, the focus seems from Baumgardner, at least her promoter Eddie Hearn is talking up a potential fight with Amanda Serrano, undisputed featherweight champion. We all remember Serrano for her terrific battle with Katie Taylor April last year, right? Serrano, one of the more accomplished ladies in the sport, all-time, multiple division champion. I think she's a 7-division world champion. What say you about Baumgardner or Team Baumgardner now targeting a fight against Serrano to the point where during the post-fight, Eddie Hearn was saying that he thinks that Serrano is going to be next for Baumgardner.
Anything to make sure that they don't get the rematch with Katie Taylor and Amanda Serrano avenge her win. Okay, that aside. But what's interesting when it comes to this situation is it's this is probably a little bit more of a dig on Eddie's favorite person to poke when it comes to the promoter game, Bob Arum. Because while Eddie may want to talk about Amanda Serrano, who is not promoted by Eddie Hearn, last we checked, he's still promoted by Jake Paul. The fight that probably still on Alycia Baumgardner's mind, even though she won, is that rematch with Michaela Mayer. It's probably one of the reasons why she did as well in this fight, because she knows the criticisms. She knows that people think of her as a start-stop fighter. She did a much better job this time around because she did a very good fight without not take anything away from her opponent that would turn out. She did a really, really good job. She stayed in the fight even though she wasn't winning. But at the end of the day, she's undisputed. She's pretty much cleaned out everybody in this weight class. So there really isn't much to do. And Serrano makes sense. Going to 130, 135, because 135 has been the most that Serrano, I think, has done. Unfortunately, like mentioned, the fact that she's not promoted by Eddie doesn't give a lot of ground to it. If anything, like I said, it's she can try to do undisputed versus undisputed the same way that Chantel Cameron, who beat Katie Taylor, did. Alycia could definitely do that. Because it seems to be a season of undisputed versus undisputed this year when it comes to boxing. So there's other avenues if Eddie Hearn wants to talk in that area, but Serrano, it's not to me, probably wouldn't be an option if she's healthy, and if she sees Katie Taylor being healthy. I think Amanda will still want a rematch with Katie Taylor for anything.
Any reaction, Gail, before we move on to what seems to be brewing a fight between the undisputed champions at 130 and 126 pounds?
I love it. I love the way the women are ready to throw down. They're willing to risk the belts. They're willing to risk the O's. And I say good for them. One thing I do want to add, which I failed to do in my first comment, Tony Harrison, I think, has a really terrific opportunity ahead of him as a trainer. I think that he's going to land in a really good spot there. He's doing a great job with Alycia. He's pretty much completely taken over her training. Fighters relate well to him. His instructions are clear. I think that he engenders a lot of trust because he's been there. I look forward to seeing a very prosperous career as a trainer for Harrison. I'm very interested to see where that goes.
On the undercard, Daniel, you had the debut of Andy Cruz, right? Named most outstanding boxer of the 2020 Olympic Games in Tokyo. For those who may not know, won the gold medal at 100 and won the lightweight gold medal, right? There was a bidding war for him once he defected Cuba and decided to turn pro. Bidding war that was ultimately won by Matchroom. Made his professional debut on the undercard of Baumgardner, Linadartou, and fought a two-time world title challenger Juan Carlos Burgos. Won by unanimous decision, clear cut, right? And the thing I gathered from watching the fight, I'm like, okay, all the hype surrounding this dude, this kid. yeah, start paying attention to Cruz, because fighting a 10 rounder in his first pro bout, uh, he has the looks of a guy who is the goods. All the potential that he showed fighting for the Cuban national team, and all the success that he had in the amateur ranks. Um, if talent means anything, he's going to be on the fast track in the pros as well.
Yes, the fact that it was a 10 rounder, it was for, I think, a regional belt. This fight made a statement as far as, here I am, I'm coming in, and I'm not taking baby steps. And I guess somebody like Burgos, who's normally a guy that likes to bang both on the inside and the outside, you could tell he took the confidence of Burgos by round 3 or 4. He took the confidence away, and by that point, he was in his groove, landing combinations, landing some decent power shots, particularly to the body. But there are other instances where, unfortunately, the bad parts, at least the non-aesthetically pleasing parts of the Cuban school of boxing, showed up a little bit. But you can tell that Andy Cruz was comfortable. He didn't feel tired coming into it, which is always a worry when you have a guy that's so used to working in the amateur system compared to the length of what a potential fight can be in the pros. But he handled it well. He dominated the fight throughout. There was, at no point was he in any danger. The biggest issue that's going to come at him is that there were those lapses that where he didn't step on the gas, and that is going to be an adjustment period. This guy was going to be an adjustment period, but he looked good. And we also know, like, the zone made it a point to mention it, like, how many times. This fight was pretty much, as far as Andy Cruz's camp goes, this fight was for an audience of one, and that's Keyshawn Davis. They know that that's a potential big fight for them in this division, especially what may wind up happening down the line as far as freeing up the belts. And until they get close enough where they're either fighting for a title or they're fighting each other beforehand, they're going to be compared. In fact, look at the opponent with Burgos. Making the comparisons between him and Keyshawn Davis and Devin Haney. None of them were able to take out Burgos out in the distance, but none of them also didn't take away Burgos' confidence the way Cruz did. So this was a successful outing.
Oh, go ahead. Okay, my bad for interrupting. You mentioned Keyshawn Davis, and let's go there, Gail, right? Cruz beat Davis in the gold medal match, one of 3 victories that he has over Keyshawn Davis in the amateurs. And Davis, highly touted lightweight prospect, fighting out of top rank. Hearn is already talking about a potential rematch between the two in the pros. Now, based on what I've seen, there are some things that from Cruz in the amateurs that, no matter how, in my opinion, when it was amateurs, no matter how many times they would have fought, Cruz just has the kind of style that will give Davis trouble each and every time, right? Given what you've seen for Davis so far in the pros, is there anything that he could do style-wise that could turn things around in the paid ranks were they to fight?
Oh, sure, absolutely. Keyshawn has gotten a head start for one thing, on Cruz, has a lot more professional experience. He understands the entertainment aspect, the branding aspect. He's called the businessman for a reason. He really is. I do like that Cruz did not go the easy route, training in South Florida in a comfortable environment. Oh no, he is up in Philly being trained by Bozy Ennis, Boots Ennis' dad. That was a very smart move. However, I understand, and this has been public on some podcasts and so forth, that Cruz's nickname in the Ennis gym is bullshit. Why? Because apparently when he's sitting there working, or he's supposed to be working, he has a tendency to apparently kind of slack off, be a little lazy if somebody's not pushing him. And Bozy Ennis has been known to yell across the gym when he sees him slacking, bullshit. And now all the other fighters in the gym do that too. Well, I hope that gives him, the right idea about work ethic. It's not unusual for a fighter who's incredibly naturally talented to not need to work so damn hard. Guys and women who aren't naturally skilled have to work harder to acquire the skills. We've all seen people with just tremendous skill sets who just don't have the work ethic, and in the end, it catches up with them. So we'll have to see whether these stories coming out of the gym mean that he's in the right place and he's being taught the right lessons. But it's one fight. The one thing I will say is, let's all bear in mind, that's the first time he ever went 10 rounds in a scored fight. He's never had anything but 3-rounders before. That's a pretty darn good start. But I do think Davis will be a much more formidable foe to him because he now does beat Cruz on the experience scale. I think they're fairly equal in power. Cruz has not figured out how to leverage power punching, and he might not need to. It's the skill set's certainly there. But I was very impressed by the effort, the conditioning. I will say, it doesn't diminish his accomplishment, but that was the most faded version of Juan Carlos Burgos I've ever seen. Burgos was not at his best. Is this a function of age and wear and tear finally catching up with him? It might have been. That was absolutely not the best version of Burgos. And there we go. Our host is just now popping back in.
Can you hear me?
We lost you there for a second. I'll hand it back over.
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay, yeah. One of my main issues with Keyshawn is defense. I think he gets hit too much at this stage of his career, right? You can tell that Bud Crawford is one of his idols, right? Tries to fight like him in many regards, but the thing that's missing is attention to detail when it comes to avoiding punches. And I haven't seen enough improvement there where if Cruz and Davis were to fight again, especially if Andy Cruz was to get, let's just say 3-4 more fights, they keep him active throughout the rest of the year, get him a couple, 2-3 more fights before the end of the year, maybe give him a couple more fights in 2024. That's the biggest flaw when it comes to Davis. And it may be boring, Daniel, but they keep a heavy focus, the Cuban amateur system, a heavy focus on defense. And Cruz, to me, is one of those guys with a radar. He didn't necessarily have to move a lot to avoid punches. And Davis' main shot would be to land a big punch, but I don't know if Cruz will give him the opportunity. I would like to see the fight, though. because Davis has improved from the Olympics until now. I like the way he works the body. I think his power is a little bit slept on, and he has a little bit of a mean streak. But I think that Andy Cruz overall is a more talented fighter. We'll see where he goes and what direction Matchroom takes him now that his professional career has officially kicked off. Let's go to some other fights, and I may split this one up. I'm going to you, Daniel. Frank Martin, really a eye-catching performance against Michelle Rivera in December last year, and I believe it was a fight of two world-ranked guys at the time. Martin beat Rivera by decision. Made his return to the ring against a guy by the name of Harutyunyan. I keep butchering his name. I just call him his first name Artem. My apologies. And yeah, for those who felt that Martin was just going to make easy work of Artem, didn't turn out to be the case. Martin seemed to be off to me, wasn't on his A game, and he admitted so after the fight. He ended up winning, but it was by close decision. Given the fact that he's in this kind of a spotlight now, post Rivera, were you disappointed not just in his the way he performed in terms of a physical aspect, but the mental side of the game? He admitted he wasn't on his A game, and that's in part to mental approach, and he wasn't all the way focused. Is that something that should be criticized in the aftermath of this fight?
I mean, in a way, yes, because if you're not on your A game in this sport, that can do, and you have to be on your A game. Protect yourself at all times. Make sure that you finish from the beginning of round one, and if you get close, to the end of the round that you're scheduled to hit. If you don't get a knockout, because there's been a lot of careers that have been derailed by just having one lapse in judgment, letting one punch land. That derails a lot of things. Like I said, the first one that comes into my mind, first couple, Mickey Bay, who, remember, was beating John Molina pretty soundly in that turn fight until he got hit with one punch. John Molina wins. Bay's career is never the same. Amir Khan versus Danny Garcia. Amir Khan already thinking Mayweather. Ultimately wound up getting hit close to the neck. Never recovered from winning that fight with Garcia, and he did get some marquee fights from him. He did fight Canelo afterwards, but his career has never been the same. Martin has to be careful to not fall into those lapses, because Artem, from the highlights you see in this fight, came in knowing that he had to really beat Martin in order to get a chance at this fight, because that fight was a lot closer than the scorecards gave it. And luckily for Martin, he was able to turn it on real late in rounds 9 and 10 to push it through and get the win, even though the scorecards were pretty wide in some areas. But that's a worry you got to have with somebody like Martin, who has the potential to be at the top of the division, a B contender in the division. And like I said, it just only takes one lapse of judgment, one part where you're not in the A game, and the best laid plans ultimately are the ones that get wrecked the worst.
Yeah, fortunately for him, he was able to get by with having an off night. But moving forward, you can't afford to do that, especially if you're fighting a better competition. He's looking to fight for a world title at 135, and he has to be on his P's and Q's if he's to ever get that shot on the undercard, Gail. Interesting matchup at 140 pounds. Viktor Postal, former champion. returning to the ring after nearly a year and a half layoff, fought Elvis Rodriguez. And Rodriguez was in control of this from early on, ended up stopping Postal. I don't know how to read this, how to look at this outcome here, because while Rodriguez was able to wear down and beat down Postal, did he do it against a guy who may be clearly past his prime?
It's a little like the situation between Andy Cruz and Juan Carlos Burgos. Guys who have been very sturdy opponents. Postal's a former belt holder, always gives a good effort. Sometimes has been a very surprising performer, and I say that in a positive sense. He's one of those guys that's really hard to look good against. He's very awkward. He's very complicated. Props to Rodriguez. He took him apart. He really did. I don't recall Postal ever being taken out quite that quickly. Did it have to do with ring rust? Did it have to do with the fact he's 39 years old? It's very possible. But, I'm going to credit Elvis Rodriguez from learning, first of all, from his loss, and second of all, from mistakes he's made. You don't lose if you learn from your mistakes. And I really think he has. I think Freddie Roach's trainer has adjusted the approach with him. He was one of these guys, victim of the hype and quick ramp up, right? And then you hit a wall and bang, you're nobody. And this has given him time to think, to adjust, to work on his shortcomings. And we saw the byproduct this weekend. It was really a good performance. And I'm going to say that while Postal is not the guy at the peak of his performing skills, I don't think we could say he was washed. I'm going to credit Rodriguez for a truly fine performance.
Yeah. I have no more to add to that. I don't want to. I mean, look, Postal. He's up there in age. You mentioned he's nearly 40, but at the same time, you just don't want to take much away from Rodriguez. He's a fighter who's getting better and better. He's on the come up. We will see where he moves forward in the aftermath of this performance. It was impressive enough where folks will want to see him again. Let's get to some news here. I didn't put this in the docket. My apologies for this. Daniel and Gail, I'll give both you. I want both of your opinions on this, and I'll go back to you on this. To you, Gail. And that is the saga, the drama, the soap opera that it is Teofimo Lopez and the WBO, right? We all know Lopez in the aftermath of the fight against his win over Josh Taylor to win the WBO 140-pound strap, said that he was retiring, but he never gave up the belt, right? The WBO basically demanded that, requested that he reach out to them in writing whether he was intended to vacate or whether he was going to keep the belt. Turns out that Teofimo Lopez is saying that yes, he's going to keep the belt. Subsequently, he went on social media calling for a fight with Devin Haney. For those, Gail, who were skeptical, cynical when Lopez said he was going to hang up the gloves, we were right. And yeah, all that talk about I'm done and I've had this career and I don't want no more. Well, your decision to inform the WBO that you're going to keep the title, and then you going out and trying to talk up a fight with Haney. Yeah, you was going to fight all along, and we all knew it.
Talk is cheap. Talk is cheap. It's just talk. It means nothing. Yeah, come on. We all can employ a lot of skepticism until we actually see things happen, until events are made real. You can talk about anything you darn well want to. Now, Is it possible he still vacates? Sure it is. Was there any reason for him to give up the belt at this point when there's no mandatory, clock ticking down right now? No. No reason. Just hold on to it. Give yourself some time, decide what you want to do. Nobody would have been hurt by that. These things tend to just float along. But Teo cannot contain himself. He cannot keep his mouth shut. He cannot keep his own counsel. He's a hothead. Why are we surprised that he just can't keep out of the limelight? And he just can't keep out of the limelight, right? He needs it like drug addict needs a fix. He isn't being talked about for a few days or a week. He's getting the shakes. So he's got to start talking trash to somebody. He calls out an opponent. Devin Haney, for whatever reason, has decided it's in his best interest to engage and stay visible. I think that's a mistake. I think Haney is above that, frankly. These divisions around 130, 140, they're all shaking out right now. Until fights are signed, until they're made, until guys get on the scale, just don't get too excited. Don't feed the trolls. Don't read too much into this stuff.
And let me give even further backstory here. The BO ordered a bout between Arnold Barboza and former unified champion Jose Ramirez to fight for what they was thinking was going to be the vacant WBO belt, right? In concert with that, Daniel, they gave this mandate for Teofimo to either vacate, to inform them that they was going to vacate, or he was going to vacate or keep the belt. And they reached out, they gave the same kind of mandate to one Devin Haney, who, because he's undisputed and has a WBO belt at 135 pounds, he would be in position to, where he make the decision to move up officially, he'd be in position to fight Barboza, who's ranked number 1 by the WBO at 140 pounds. Haney would be in position to fight Barboza for what would have been the vacant title. But since Teofimo has decided, he has informed the WBO that he's going to keep the belt, the ordered bout between Barboza and Ramirez is null and void. What do you make of all of this? And this is playing out like a soap opera, and not a good one at that.
Like I mentioned, nobody's surprised by this. Nobody's surprised that Teofimo did what Teofimo did. As soon as you saw Teofimo be physically in Puerto Rico to get his belt from the WBO, you knew that, yeah, he was gonna fight. He was gonna keep it. And in many ways, this is a situation where he knows that the main way for him to get noise is by doing stunts like this and doing shit talking, because otherwise you're going to have other scenarios that are types out into it, like what the WBC is doing, which has given Devin Haney a similar type of ultimatum. Because apparently Mauricio, and I think it was in an interview today, and through the rankings that were published today, has told Haney, okay, you got to let us know by this date. I forgot what date it was, but it's fairly close. You got to tell us where either you're going to be fighting your new mandatory at lightweight, which is Shakur Stevenson now, or you're going to be fighting Regis Prograis for his 140-pound title. Teofimo probably saw that there were some rumblings into that and said, like, I have to put my name in the ring because Devin Haney would probably be the fight that will make me the most money right now. Because Teofimo fighting Barbosa, Teofimo fighting Jose Ramirez is not going to make him, it won't justify the money that he wants Top Rank to pay him for his fights. Devin Haney is another story. Devin Haney is the one probably you want to lean into it, but you have to see where everything shapes up. But nobody should be surprised that he did this. The only other thing now is his fate now relies on Devin Haney picking to fight him rather than fighting either Shakur or Prograis. So, yeah, he has the belt, but he doesn't have control over who he's facing next. And unfortunately, he may wind up fighting either Barbosa or Ramirez. And we're making a lot of money, but this is a situation you put yourself in.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll go back to Gail's points, and I'll add on to what she said about Teofimo. It's one of the many reasons why, while he's a talented fighter for sure, he's a lightning rod. Because let's face it, dude can be annoying, can get on your nerves, but by what he says and how he acts, he's unpredictable in that way. Bipolar would be too strong of a word, but you never know what you're going to get from him on a moment's notice. So adamant about this is the end. I'm not going to fight anymore. I've done all I had to do. But then when his feet is held to the fire, oh yeah, I'm gonna keep the belt. I'm gonna keep the belt. It was just all along for me that he's just waiting on the right offer, and then he's gonna fight again. He's just trying to hold, and that's why he's just trying to hold on to the belt. The WBO pushed the button and basically try to force his hand and saying, "You're not going to do that. Either you let us know something. You let us know something." And they basically forced his hand, and he basically, in a sense, the sanctioning body kind of called his card. It's going to be interesting once he does some interviews in the aftermath of this. I want someone to ask him the reasons behind that, and if he was so adamant about retiring, why are you now informing? Why did you inform the WBO that you decide to keep the belt? So who he fights again? Will he fight Haney? Will he fight Barbosa, who, by the way, for those who hadn't heard, sought I think is no longer with Top Rank now. He's asked for his release with the promotional company, is my understanding. What does Teofimo Lopez do from here? What does Devin Haney do from here? We'll keep you updated on the situations of both fighters here on Pound for Pound Boxing Report. Other big news that was made, a couple of other stories here, and I go to you, Daniel. Last time we saw Gervonta Davis was against Ryan Garcia, April 22nd. Stopped him in 7 in the aftermath, and Tank said that he is the new face of boxing. We all know in the months after that was put on house arrest. Baltimore County judge, after an impromptu hearing, quote unquote, it was determined that Tank violated conditions of his house arrest. Was put in jail. He was put in jail, ordered to serve the rest of his 90-day house arrest in jail. Well, earlier this week, Friday, I believe it was, last week on Friday, he was released. Tank posted a couple of images on social media, one of an emoji, two of him holding bundles of cash. Okay, Tank's out now. When is he going to fight again? Who is he going to fight again? Have you heard anything?
Nothing yet, and that's going to be what's going to shape up. He's also tied to this all scenario involving Teofimo and Haney because fighting at 135 and he's fought at 140 before. So there's possibility. He's a possibility for either Teofimo or Haney. The problem, unfortunately, is going to be is okay. He has been in jail. Like, who we're going to pick into it? How you're going to keep him in training camp for a good while? Because unfortunately, even if you've been in jail for a good while, you normally want to have your little fun period. So we have to see who shapes up next. Now, what's probably going to likely happen is a rematch with Isaac Cruz. Because that's an easy fight to make. They're under the PBC umbrella. And he gave Tank a pretty decent fight. So that's probably the direction, if you're Tank's camp, you want to lean towards. While everything else gets sorted out, particularly with Haney, whether he stays at lightweight or he goes up to 140. Because he goes up to 140, then it actually becomes a free-for-all. So they're probably gauging that area, but I would probably say Pitbull Cruz is more than likely going to be the next opponent.
Your thoughts, Gail?
Oh, no question about it. Pitbull Cruz is on the Spence Crawford undercard for a reason. The visibility gets him back in front of the public. He's got an opponent who, while is undefeated, hasn't really fought the level of opposition, making him a huge threat. Although he has decent names on his resume. He beat Gabe Flores Jr. last year, but he has been out of the ring a year. So we'll see how he performs. Giovanni Cabrera, he's a very serviceable opponent. I will put it that way. But Cruz is on that undercard to set up the rematch later this year. And that's the right fight for Davis, coming off being incarcerated, going through all of his personal issues, a lot of distractions. There's no way he's going to take on a very high stakes unification, top names type of fight. And Cruz gave Davis a great fight in the first bout. I think this will be a very fan-friendly fight. People will look forward to it. Cruz is very well liked. So there's just a lot to like about it. So make no mistake, that's the next fight. However, Cruz does have to win. He does have to win come July 29th.
That's right. Pitbull Cruz is fighting on the undercard of Spence Crawford. I agree with both of your guys' assessments. So yeah, I agree with both of your assessments. It looks all everything's pointing towards them fighting towards a rematch between Tank and Cruz. It also shows to me why Pitbull turned down the fight with Edwin De Los Santos, because too much of a threat given what could be possibly down the road. Isn't anything been announced for sure? No, but as always, here we'll keep you updated here on Pound for Pound Box Report. Tyson Fury, throughout the winter of 2022, late winter 2023, spring, there was this back and forth about a possible April showdown with Alexander Usyk. Daniel has always made the case that Fury would never fight the unified heavyweight champion. Fury has been doing more talking than fighting over the last 6 months. Well, news came down the pipe that Fury is now fighting MMA star Francis Ngannou October 28th in Saudi Arabia. not only is he fighting Ngannou, Daniel, there's supposedly a rematch clause. Is this what we? Is this what we've not evolved but dissolved to when it comes to the WBC heavyweight champion?
I don't want to say I told you so, but I literally just said it. I told you so. When it comes to Fury, the only fight that's of any interest to boxing fans when it comes to Fury is Usyk. And unfortunately, an actual boxing match against mainly the other heavyweights are not as intriguing. Are you going to give a fourth fight to Deontay Wilder? Doesn't make sense because we all know what's going to happen. Give Andy Ruiz a shot, you're just going to Klitschko him. And we know who's going to win that one. The only fight that was only interesting from a boxing standpoint was Usyk. And this just becoming a sideshow at this point is not the best look for him, because especially with the rematch clause. Because yeah, he's going to get paid money. Saudi Arabia's throwing him money, but this is now him cementing his hostage taking of the WBC heavyweight title, and unfortunately, Mauricio Suleiman doesn't look too keen on probably doing what needs to be done and stripping him of the belt, because he does generate money. And if he generates money, he generates sanctioning fees. So that's the main reason why he still has the belt and why he'll probably keep it even if he does rematch Ngannou, who for Ngannou, this is a huge payday. Leaving UFC, signed to PFL, and now not even having the PFL debut. Your first post UFC fight is a boxing fight that you don't even know the rules yet, because it's not scheduled to be an exhibition. If it's not scheduled to be an exhibition, would you try to say a voluntary defense of the WBC heavyweight title? That wouldn't make sense. So if it's not an exhibition, this is just a random fight. But he's going to make money. Apparently he's probably making 8-figure payday out of this. Much more money than he made in the UFC for one night. But it is disheartening, unfortunately, because we're not going to get the unification fight that we want to get. And ultimately, what this means is either the clock is going to be on Fury to actually drop the belt voluntarily, or it's going to be the clock on Mauricio Suleiman on doing the right thing. And especially if they do a rematch, just stripping Fury the belt. Yeah, have Wilder and Andy Ruiz fight for it, and then the winner of that gets to fight Usyk.
I mean, Gail, who's really asking for this?
Fury and Ngannou are asking for this. Ngannou's fans are asking for this. The Saudis love the sports washing. We know eyeballs are going to be on it. We know. And I do not blame Ngannou one bit, because he's finally getting a decent paycheck. That's why he left the UFC. He's now affiliated with the PFL, which doesn't have any problem in him taking fights like this. In fact, it raises the profile of the PFL. Everybody rides on that one. It also tells you something that Dana White has just steamed over this whole thing, because he lost control of one of his stars through his stranglehold. And Fury is lured by the money in what will be an easy fight for him. And we don't have to love it. I don't love it. I don't like it. I would prefer he pay attention to his legacy and have some respect for himself. On the other hand, they are in the hurt business to make money. And he'll make, let's see, let me calculate, a shit ton of money to do this with plenty of people willing to pay to see it. It's a curiosity factor. I mean, you cannot deny that. We can all watch Ngannou's supporters saying he's going to be a threat and he can win. And we all know better. We have seen this plot over and over, and it never changes. But when there are people willing to pay and promotional entities willing to put up the money, you know, it's the whole thing about not hating the players, but hating the game. And the game is out there. And I will say right now, on the record, that Fury and Ngannou will do more buys than Spence Crawford.
Oh, dear God. Oh, dear God.
Again, you don't have to like it, but I'm not going to be wrong.
Yeah,
Deep
sadly,
sigh.
yeah,
And
not
let
gonna be
me
wrong there.
and let me pile on for just a second. Jake Paul, Nate Diaz is going to do more buys than Spence.
Just stomp on my boxing heart. Why don't you, Gail? Oh,
I'm sorry, guys. Sorry about that.
Now
Had to do it.
that one I will push back on. But yeah, Fury and Ngannou, yeah, that's gonna get more buys.
yeah. So yeah, these two guys are going to fight. If there's a rematch, oh my God, what does it say about Fury at this point? But yeah, they're going to fight. And you're right. As much as I don't want to admit it, Gail, you're right. It's going to be a huge draw, a lot of numbers. Not just from the sports arena, period. Not just the boxing among boxing fans, among MMA fans, but just the sports arena, period, is going to get a lot of attention. From Ngannou's perspective, you can't be mad at it because, as you said, Gail, it's a big payday for him. He was getting short shrifted by Dana White over at UFC, so he made the necessary moves for himself from a financial perspective, and he's benefiting from those moves big time with this upcoming fight. Let's move on to preview some matches here. A couple of matches I want to focus on, and just get this out the way. George Kambosos coming off of the 2 losses against Haney last year, makes his return to the ring against Maxi Hughes. They're fighting in Oklahoma. They're fighting on ESPN, I believe. But outside of that, I'll ask this question once now. I've asked this question more than once. Give me a reason to be excited about it. To me, this is nothing more than obligations that Top Rank fulfilling their obligations to the deal, to their deal with Kambosos that they made last year. Outside of that, the interest for me in this fight,
I don't mind it much as I'm not sure it's going to be too competitive, but British fans are very loyal. They always believe in their guys, right? So they all think Maxi Hughes has got a great shot against Kambosos. I think Kambosos is a very good fighter who we've seen come up against 2 elite talents. And other than Lopez and Haney, Kambosos is got to be considered the favorite against just about anybody else that isn't at that very, very top level. So this is the beginning of his comeback. They're both on the road, so they're both going to have the equal non-home turf situation. It does seem really odd to me, though, that Kambosos of Australia and Hughes of Great Britain are fighting in the middle of the country. Obviously we've got some serious tribal money involved. It's going to be at Fire Lake Arena in Shawnee, which is a tribal owned casino. So, hey, if that's something that is a profitable sort of event for this casino operation to stage, great, fine. And it gives Top Rank the opportunity to put a lot of their junior guys on the undercard. They guarantee those guys fights. That's also really important to do. So, hey, it's dog days of summer. It's the week before Spence Crawford. So everybody's distracted by that. So I sort of get why this is a kind of a placeholder card this weekend.
Pretty much. Now, before I go to you, Daniel, read some comments here in the live chat from Original Bad. One before Puff. Appreciate you listening to the show. If you have not already, make sure you hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. It'll help the overall algorithms get us closer to being monetized. A couple comments from him. He says that I'm actually both a boxing hardcore as well as an MMA hardcore. Fury versus Ngannou would be more interesting if they allow 4-ounce gloves and put the title on the line. That should be at stake. He also says there should be stakes. WBC allow for it to be on the line with smaller gloves, something to make it look as if Francis has a chance. The one thing I would not do for this kind of a fight is put 4-ounce gloves, because just the danger aspect of it. It's one thing to do that in MMA, for little smaller gloves for MMA for 5-minute rounds, but when you're talking 12 rounds, 3 minutes of action, 36 minutes with these two big behemoths, there's a reason that boxers fight with the bigger gloves, because we know the history of the dangers of fighting with smaller gloves. They used to have 6-ounce gloves for the smaller guys. I don't want to see that. I understand why you put up that proposition for entertainment value, but just from the health aspects, no, it's just something I don't want to see. Any reaction to the comments, Daniel?
No, I'm with you. That's a very dangerous thing to do. I mean, have you watched Bare Knuckle lately? Bare Knuckle has its cult following. I realize that I watch men and women hit each other for money, but I can't even buy into the bare knuckle stuff, and I wouldn't want to see what was essentially the equivalent of a bare knuckle fight here. And somebody that is a power puncher like Fury, he could seriously hurt Ngannou. I mean, that's his bread and butter. Nah. That is just simply too dangerous. You would need to make this a fight under mixed martial arts style rules, and Fury has zero training, cross training there. It'll never happen.
Yeah. I understand why you want to ask for those gloves. Supposedly it gives Ngannou a chance. And one of the selling points about Ngannou, and it was one of the selling points of Alistair Overeem, was that the raw power that they had. Supposedly the hardest punchers in MMA. And that's in a way to give them a chance. But the problem is, unfortunately, these guys are trained in MMA. They're not trained in boxing. And so you give a guy like Fury, who does have a punch and does have a good amount of defense, 4-ounce gloves, a guy who knows how to hit and knows where to land shots as a boxer, compared to Ngannou, who will be a mixed martial artist, is going to try to do it as a boxer. It's just not going to look. This is just basically going to be what we always see when boxers and mixed martial artists cross the picket lines or cross the oceans into the other domain. We've seen it with Conor McGregor against Floyd. We've seen it, unfortunately, with James Toney when he stepped in the octagon. it just doesn't look good because you're going to be a fish out of water. So even if you're given 4-ounce gloves to Ngannou, it's still the chance of the fact that Ngannou's trained in MMA, he's not trained in boxing, and you're fighting against somebody who, all the criticism that we have given him aside, is one of the best boxers in his division, if not the best. Granted, Usyk is actually the best, and he'll never prove it otherwise. That's basically what it is. It's just the tricky part of when you see an MMA fighter in boxing and vice versa.
Yes, a couple more comments from Original Bad. I'm going to read them off right quick. The danger aspect of it is what it makes it interesting as a boxing purist. Why would you want to put, why would you want it, but as 100% spectacle, why not? It doesn't have to be 4-ounce gloves, maybe smaller to a cast. He also says something to cast doubt on the outcome. Still, no. We have enough issues with boxers wearing this, with fighters wearing the standard 10-ounce gloves, right? So I hear you from a pure entertainment standpoint. We all know that Fury is the much better boxer. If they're going to go by standard Queensberry rules, we all know that Fury is significantly advanced in this aspect. And he has the experience of how to get in and out of the way, taller, longer fighter. Him bombing shots on anybody, I don't care who it is, with that small gloves, it's just not a good thing, particularly against someone who we have to be honest here, is still pretty much a novice. If they're going to fight, I'm good with them fighting with the standard 10-ounce gloves. If Ngannou has the power that people say that he does in MMA, given his size, he has the ability to hurt. He would have the ability to hurt anyone he hits, and that includes Fury. And he could do so. He could do that very well with the standard 10-ounce gloves. Let's get back to previewing these fights here. Daniel, I don't know. I think I didn't get your word from you on this fight between Kambosos and Hughes.
Yeah. Well, this is the start. Yeah, this is the start of Kambosos' deal with Top Rank. And it's mainly Top Rank's way of trying to fill up the lightweight ranks, because should Haney vacate and go to Matchroom, which is probably what we all expect him to do, they want to be able to have pretty much the bulk of the division available to fight for the belts. And but we have to also face facts. This is also a way for Kambosos to build himself and not just think that it was just a flash in the pan victory against the Teofimo, that he just caught the Teofimo at the wrong time. It's a good way to build it up. It's gonna do its purpose, especially if Haney winds up vacating the belts.
Indeed. So let's see how the fight goes. At the very least, I'm hoping, even though my level of enthusiasm is low, I do want to see an entertaining scrap. And let's see what Kambosos has to offer in the aftermath of the back-to-back losses to one Devin Haney. Now, the fight we're going to talk about next, I'm talking about it right now because I don't know as of this recording. Excuse me, I don't know what my schedule is for next week. So, as a result, we're going to talk about Stephen Fulton and Naoya Inoue now, one of the most anticipated matchups of 2023. Right, Inoue has had an eye on fighting Fulton going back to last summer when he was unified bantamweight champion. But he wanted to become undisputed. He did that last December 11th round stoppage over Paul Butler, who I will go to my dying days. He came to that. He entered that contest trying to go to distance because he didn't put much of an effort at all. The fact that the monster was playing with him, tempting him to throw punches, and Butler was unwilling to do so. That to me says that Butler didn't really want to fight. But anyway, said enough was enough. Stepped on the gas and stopped it. January this year, announced he was moving up to 122 pounds. This fight, Gail, was supposed to take place in May, but injury from Inoue pushed the bout back to July 25th. They're going to fight in Tokyo, despite the fact that Cool Boy Steph is the defending champion, has 2 of the 4 belts at 122 pounds. There are a lot of people I'm hearing, a lot of folks from my travels in this boxing space are making the monster the favorite. I am super excited for this fight. I'll more than likely will be up watching it live. I think it's set to occur at roughly 5 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. But yeah, I'm up. I'm ready for this one. This is the same week as Spence Crawford. It's going to happen earlier, midweek. Bring this fight on. Let's talk about it right now. Stephen Fulton, Naoya the Monster Inoue.
Boxing heads are so pumped for this. So pumped to see Inoue back in the ring and Fulton having the brass ones to go into enemy territory and take him on. That is a fighter who believes in himself. I love it. He's challenging himself. He's going to put his skills to the test. Win or lose, I have enormous respect for Stephen Fulton for doing this. So far, everybody has lost to Naoya Inoue. Interestingly enough, his 2-time foe, Nonito Donaire, thinks Fulton will win. I find that very interesting. I think that is going to be a very tall hill to climb. Inoue has humbled a lot of very, very talented fighter. There's no shame in losing to him. He's a generational talent. His skills are backed up by his ability to land that power shot. He is one of the small guys that has a one-hitter quitter punch. Go back and look at some highlights. If you close your eyes just a little bit, you kind of back off the focus, he doesn't look like a small man in the ring with that kind of power. He looks like he's got the stature of a heavyweight when he lands those shots. So you cannot make a mistake against him. And that is the issue. He will come at you like a buzzsaw. Fulton does have loads of skills. I think he will put up a great fight. I think he'll look good in losing to Inoue, but I'm going to be highly entertained. Set your alarm clocks, everybody. Hey, if it's at 2 a.m. Pacific time on the West Coast, that'd be great. Chances are more likely it's going to be a little later than that, which is good for you all on the East Coast. Get the coffee ready. It's going to be boxing for breakfast later next week. It's going to be very interesting to see after we get through the week, and we're on July 30th, 31st, looking back. What's the best fight of the week going to be? I think it might take place across the Pacific.
Sorry, I was on mute. Fulton presents a package that Inoue has not seen from just a pure skill perspective, right? The defending champion is a very versatile fighter, can adapt to just about any style. My question is, even though Inoue is moving up to 122 pounds and Fulton has been has campaigned at junior featherweight throughout his career, can Cool Boy Steph, does he have the power to hold Inoue off? Can he hang with him if they were to get into exchanges? Because Monster Inoue, he unusual pop for a guy his size, right? Whether 108 when he was a champion, 115, 118, he has shown the ability to hurt anyone he hits. I suspect he will have that same ability moving up in weight. If he can take the punch, and more important, if Fulton can take the punch of Inoue, more importantly, if he can find a way to put some hurt on Inoue, uh, he has an excellent shot to win. Your thoughts, Daniel? Your keys to this fight?
Oh man, this is one of the fights that have been salivating. It's a fight that I loved from the start, from the moment it was made. Because remember, it was made by the fighters themselves. They didn't let promoter politics get in the way of this. And you saw how big of the event was going to be because of how the reception was for Stephen Fulton when he flew already to Japan. He was fans already waiting for him. Japanese fans waiting to get autographs. That's the reason why it's in Japan. Yeah, and that's the reason why we're gonna watch it at 5 o'clock in the morning Eastern Central on a Tuesday, which is a very popular day to have a fights in Japan. But to me, it's gonna be the case of, can Inoue really translate power as he goes up to weight division? He was able to do it from 115 to bantamweight, but now going to do it from bantamweight to junior featherweight against somebody in Fulton who has fought in this weight class his entire career, or for the bulk of his entire career. And it's not gonna be somebody that's gonna be over reliant on power and just trying to blitz Fulton. Sorry, trying to blitz anyway. Going to be somebody that's going to have a good foundation of skill sets to challenge him. Now, I understand why Nonito Donaire would pick on it. You never really sometimes want to pick your probably the person that took you out last to win titles. But he may actually have a case here. He may actually have a case where I could see Fulton winning this fight. And it'll probably be a very, very close fight. But I also can see a situation that Fulton himself was a beneficiary of, where against Brandon Figueroa. Brandon Figueroa won the fight but lost the decision. I would not be surprised one bit if we see a situation where Stephen Fulton wins the fight but loses the decision too, which would lead to a rematch, and I would definitely love that. So we have to see how it shapes up. But I can see Fulton pulling the quote unquote upset here.
I desperately want the fight to live up to the hype. I desperately want it to be as good as advertised. Let's get official predictions here before we begin to sign things off. I'm going back to you, Daniel, your official prediction.
My official prediction, it's tough. You know what? I'm sticking to my guns. Fulton by decision.
Your official prediction, Gail.
It's going to be Inoue by decision. I do think Fulton will take him to the bell. Unless he wins 9 or 10 rounds, there's no way Fulton's getting a decision in Japan.
I say Inoue by late round stoppage, 11th round. Fulton will give him a very good fight, will land some punches, but I believe in the power of Inoue. As I stated before, I think he hurts anyone he hits. And I've seen scenarios where I've seen fights in which Fulton, who's quite skilled, has good defense, but I also seen him get hit with shots, right? If he comes into the fight trying to on a mission to prove something, willing to stand there and trade like he did against Brandon Figueroa, no, don't do that. And that's not your best recourse to win. He should try to make this as boring as possible. But again, I just don't know if he has enough to keep the monster off of him. If he doesn't have enough to keep the monster off of him, I think Inoue will have the advantage here, and I think he wins by, again, late round stoppage in what should be a very good fight. I want to thank all the comments here from Original Bad. Again, if you're checking this out on YouTube, make sure you hit that like and subscribe button. I'm going to go around the panel here. Begin the show with ladies first, end the show with ladies first. Gail from NY Fights. Dom, nyfights.com, excuse me. For those who want to talk boxing, for those who are in need of a good PR person, and given our discussion about Teofimo Lopez, he's a number one on top of that list of fighters who need good press folks to control himself and stop him from keep shooting his running his mouth and inserting foot in mouth. Let's just say that. So for those who want to talk boxing, for those who want to talk media, for those who may need a good PR person, or for those who want to catch you occasionally on TMZ Live, and let's hope TMZ Live have you on to talk about either this fight or Spence Crawford on the 29th. Gail from nyfights.com. Let the folks know where they can find you.
You can find me right where you see me, nyfights.com, nyfights.com. And hey, I always render my best professional advice, but you know what? Your clients are free to ignore you. So sometimes that's the way it goes, friends.
And Daniel from For Boxing News, Indian Scriber, for those who want to talk the sweet science, for those who want to talk professional wrestling, for those who want to talk the NBA, especially all things Miami Heat. Let the folks know where they can hit you up.
I see the handle, folks. Rox99 on Twitter, RAWKZ99. Yes, I am also on Threads as well. We all got to branch out somewhere or another because Elon's hell bent on breaking this thing. So, but definitely that gets you on there because hopefully we get the other podcasts up and running fairly soon. And it's going to be a fun way to look at the mid-year sport because Gail's right. We're going to have within 5 days, we may have the top two, or at least among the top 5 contenders for fight of the year.
Indeed. For those who want to talk boxing, music, fitness, you know what it is with me. On Twitter, Brother JR76, for those who want to talk boxing, fitness, and fragrance. On IG or TikTok, you can check me out there on Brother JRSC. On the next episode, Pound for Pound Box Report, we will do a recap of Kambosos and Maxi Hughes. On the undercard of that fight, Keyshawn Davis, who we mentioned during our discussion about Andy Cruz, he's fighting Francisco Patera, the guy who Davis beats in his last time in the ring, Gervonta Davis. He's fighting on that card as well. Again, because not sure of my schedule for next week, so we may have a recap for you of Fulton and Inoue. Again, it just depends on my work schedule, which is very fluid. On the undercard of Fulton Inoue, Robisi Ramirez making the first defense of the WBO 126-pound belt, fighting a Japanese fighter by the name of Shimizu, Satoshi Shimizu. And for sure, we will have a full-scale, in-depth preview of the most anticipated fight of the year, the showdown for undisputed status at 147 pounds between unified champion Errol Spence, WBO champion Terrence Crawford. We will do a full in-scale breakdown of that fight, and we will do a preview of Superbad herself, Senicia Estrada, making her return to the ring, and she's fighting. She's defending her unified strawweight titles against former flyweight champion Leonella, Udica. So we will talk about all of those fights. Again, I want to thank everybody who joined us in the live chat. Thank you for the comments from Original Bad. Again, if you have not done so, make sure you hit that like and subscribe button. This has been episode 413 of the Pound for Pound Boxing Report for Gail of nyfights.com, Daniel from 4Boxing News and the Inscriber. I'm your host, Michael. We will see you guys next time. Everybody have a good evening, good night. Y'all have a good one.
And happy birthday to El Chino Marcos Maidana.
That's right. I forgot all about that. So yeah, happy born day to one El Chino himself, Marcos Maidana.